Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything going on in the world of sports. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome to a very special edition of the ODPH podcast. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Coming in with just as many wins as the Florida State Seminoles.
Ouch. Ouch. Pat is coming in with the heat this morning, and we definitely have a lot to talk about in the land of sports because this week we're not talking about the college games. No. This is the annual ODPH NFL Preview Edition. So we'd like to just get right into both divisions and conferences and everything that is involving the National Football League as it kicks off this Thursday night, September 5th, live with the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Baltimore Ravens. There's a lot going to be happening here, so we keep the intro very short and sweet for these two episodes. You're going to hear ODPH podcast for anything and everything that is involved in the show because we definitely want to interact with everybody after these episodes drop. How this works, if you're new to the show, first episode you're going to hear, we're going to be breaking down everything involving the AFC Conference. There is a companion episode that's going to be dropping, talking all NFC teams, and have our Super Bowl predictions on that as well. So we definitely want everybody to check out both episodes. Give us your takes on your favorite teams. How are they going to do? First, a couple segments, we're going to talk about the East and the South. Second is North and West. And then third is going to be breaking down who's going to the playoffs and who's representing each conference there. That said, Pad, let's kick the season off right. Let's go into the NFC or AFC East.
Yeah.
And obviously our teams are there, so we're going to have a lot to say about that. So let's get into it.
Yeah, so let's look back at the standings for the American Football Conference, the Eastern Division there, where you had the Buffalo Bills win the division with a record of 11-6, who beat the Miami Dolphins, who finished in second place with a record of 11-6. If you're wondering how the Bills beat the Dolphins, technicalities and reasons is the easiest thing I can get into without going into super deep detail with they're home and away, and then they beat that. Simple answer, reasons.
Mm-hmm.
You had the New York Jets finish in third place with a record of 7-10, and the New England Patriots finished in last place with a record of 4-13.
So this season, as we're jumping into it, there's a lot of different factors involving each team this year.
Mm-hmm.
The Buffalo Bills, the defending champions of the AFC East, have been depleted on the defensive side of the ball.
To say the least.
Yeah, it has been a rough go-around with salary cap issues, players leaving, Jordan Poirier going to Miami, which, I mean, I'm not too fazed by that. The Micah Hyde situation, that is the one that I've been watching very intently with, but they did replace him in the drafts with Cole Bishop, their second-round pick from Utah.
Mm-hmm.
So that said, the Bills have got a lot of question marks involving them, even on the offensive side of the ball too, which I've tried blocking out the headache known as Stephon Diggs as much as I can, but we have to address it on the show.
Yeah.
The offense is going to have a new look to it with Keon Coleman stepping in to fill those shoes.
Mm-hmm.
So this season for the Bills is going to be, I think, a make or break, to be honest with you.
It 100% is for me, just because ever since Josh Allen arrived in the league, however many years it is at this point, kind of was taking the mantle of AFC East dominators from the New England Patriots. It's kind of been almost like an Andy Roddick in tennis going up against, Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer in tennis. Like Andy Roddick, very good, but unfortunately just playing at the wrong time in the wrong place, in history. Josh Allen, very good, but he's gone up against some very great talent in the rest of the AFC and the NFL in general. But this year's absolutely a make or break season because it's almost turning into a Peyton Manning type thing of, can you win the big one?
Yeah.
Put up or shut up. Just because to me, you're out of excuses. You can't sit around and use any of the excuses from the past few seasons. Yes, the offense isn't as good as it might have been the last couple of years. You still got James Cook as there who's good. But then again, Buffalo running backs the last couple of years, as I've said on the show, suspect at best. Khalil Shakir's also there. Keon Coleman, as you mentioned, they added Marquez Valdez-Scantling, which, speaking from experience, just because a wide receiver was decent in Kansas City doesn't mean they're going to be good on your team. Hello, Juju Smith-Schuster. Need I say more? But the one thing I will give Buffalo credit for is they do have some good tight ends. Dalton Kincaid is still there. Dawson Knox is still there. So, hey, if all else fails, you do have a security blanket there for Josh Allen. But the thing that worries me is, they weren't good enough to get there. They weren't good enough to summit the mountain, stand atop, plant their flag, and go, we're the best team in the NFL. We won the Super Bowl. Everybody else try and knock us off. And just looking at it as trying to be as objective as I can be, granted, I realize I'm a Patriots fan, but
Sure.
trying with as much objectiveness as I can. To me, their offseason moves, lateral, if not maybe a half step backwards. I'm not going to say a full step backwards, but it's maybe a half step because, like you said, they've lost some stuff. They really haven't added a whole lot that makes me go, man, if this works out and the defensive scheme plays out the way it should, that's going to be a great addition for them. That's really going to be a difference maker when it comes to crunch time in the late third and fourth quarter. The pieces are still there. It's still good, but I just don't know if it's enough.
Well, that's the big question mark going on. I mean, Joe Brady took over the offensive coordinator position from Ed Dorsey.
Yeah.
There was a very big shift in the Bills' mentality. They were running the ball a lot more in that second half of the season. But it ultimately comes down to Sean McDermott. And I think that when we've seen him in the latter portions of quarters, it's very, very suspect, in my opinion. He overthinks a lot.
That's true.
And that has cost the Bills many times, and especially with 13 seconds left on the clock against Kansas City, which I'm not saying it's the same thing as Atlanta and 21-3,
right.
But I still think that there is that cloud hanging over the Bills' heads that they can't escape from.
Yep.
And I think that this is going to be the year they're going to have to really do a lot with less because, unfortunately, the injury bug has hit them early. Matt Milano has been put on injured reserve for the season, or going into late in the season, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll say usually if you're on injured reserve, it's like the first month or so.
Yeah, he's out till I think at least December with a torn bicep.
Yikes!
So it's going to be a lot of pressure on the rest of the the defense to really step up. But this is not the defense of old. Tre'Davious White is no longer with the Bills.
Correct.
He's out with Los Angeles. Poyer, as we touched upon, is in Miami.
Yep.
They do have a new look on this team because of cap hits. But they have enough pieces, they're going to contend. I'm not saying they're not going to be there. But if they get hit with the injury bug very, very hard, which, I mean, unfortunately they've already started, it's a very tough road uphill.
And it's not an easy start to the season by any means.
No, I mean, they kick off with Arizona.
They kick off with Arizona. That's a home game. Then week 2 is a Thursday night game, so you got a quick turnaround on the road in Miami. Then week 3 is another home game on Monday Night Football against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then you close out the first month of the season on the road in Baltimore on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, I think
Yikes.
I think if they can at worst split 2-2, I'll take that as a win.
You think these schedules are bad? Wait till we get to the AFC North.
Oh, I can only imagine. But I mean,
I've looked at those. Yikes!
But I think the big key factor here is that Josh Allen is still there. He's still healthy, and as long as he stays healthy, this team has a legit shot.
Oh yeah.
I think that's what hampered him last season because he was hurt and he played through it. And I think that's another McDermott miscue, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They should have sat him and let him heal his arm up. He didn't. And granted, they fought valiantly against the Chiefs, but you could definitely tell there were some issues there. And a couple drop passes late, which I'm not going to blame the kicker for missing, even though everybody, I think if you listen to the ODPH long enough, you know my opinion of Tyler Bass.
He doesn't watch.
Yeah, I don't watch when he kicks. I really don't.
Legitimately, I've seen it in person. I'm not like BSing you here.
No, I will literally turn away from the TV, so I don't even watch when he kicks. I don't blame it on him, but I blame it on the drop passes, especially Stephon Diggs, which when you're going to complain as much as he was about getting the ball.
And wanting a big money contract, and the big money contract they gave, and how much did he deliver last year?
Unfortunately, no. His progression went down.
Yep.
And when it came time in clutch situations, unfortunately, he did not show up in that game.
And he threw temper tantrums.
Yeah, which, I mean, unfortunately, Buffalo is in the same vein, I guess, as the Steelers as far as locker room and dealing with nonsense.
Yeah.
They will be more than willing to get rid of a player they consider a headache.
I'm telling you, there was smoke to that fire last year.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, there was, but it was just something that was building. And I understand with any number one receiver, they want the ball every down.
Oh, sure.
But I think in this situation, and we've now seen this happen in Minnesota, we've now seen this happen in Buffalo with Diggs.
Yeah. Once is a hiccup, twice is a pattern.
Yeah, that I think, unfortunately for him, he's got to work on that issue, and he's going to be challenged with that in Houston. We'll get to that a little bit, but I think for the Bills, they're very, very poised to make another run. How far, though, it just depends on injuries. I mean, honestly, in the play of Josh Allen. But I do see them winning this division again, albeit, though, Miami is going to give them a run.
Okay.
And I think the biggest question mark I have with Miami is you just signed Tua to a very, very big deal.
Yeah, you did.
For money. Is he the guy to deliver?
I think he will be, at least for this season, because I've actually got the Miami Dolphins winning the division this year.
Okay.
Not by much, and I'm not going to say it's going to be like, it's double digit. It's going to be, multiple games. No, it's going to come down to, I think, a lot of what you saw last season, where it was like tiebreakers and going to other things in the standings and whatever else, because I just don't think Buffalo did enough to really cement and further their standings in the AFC East is like kind of like how the Patriots did it for so many years. I'm not saying Buffalo's going to go on a 20-year run in AFC East
sure. I get
20-year run.
I get you.
But just kind of in that same vein of like they did enough and they established enough to really assert dominance in that division for year after year after year. Buffalo's good, but at the same time, you haven't added enough to really throw coordinators off their game and go, all right, well, we know what they did last year, but a lot of those guys are gone. We don't know what they're going to do this year because they got a whole bunch of different guys on offense and defense, and we just don't know what they're going to do gameplay wise. I'm not saying they're going to run the same plays, but there just isn't enough there for me to say Buffalo's got it. I think it's going to be Miami this year, just because you look at the play they had last year between Tua, Kane came on late in the year. This on top of the hot start Mostert had, their two running backs. Tyreek Hill still there, still challenging U.S. Olympians to foot races.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely insane. They got Jalen Waddle still there. They added Jonnu Smith, who was up in New England for a couple of years. The couple of years I got to see him, pretty decent, and he had a not so great offensive situation up there the couple of years he was up there.
Sure.
So you give him an offense like Miami had last year. Oh boy, watch out. So I think it's going to be a case. It's not going to be like a huge leap and a huge jump of like, oh yeah, Buffalo or Miami's going to have the division by like 3-4 games. No, it's going to come down to like same record, maybe one win more, but I think Miami's going to pull it out this year.
See, I think they take second place.
Okay.
And I think it's by a game. I think the Dolphins are going to be in there, as much as this pains me to say. But the big question I have for you, and I'll challenge the audience with this, is they have a great offense.
Mm-hmm.
But who on defense scares you?
Well, let me look. I'm naming all. This is the starters according to ESPN.com.
Right.
Zach Seiler, Benito Jones, Calais Campbell, Jalen Phillips, David Long Jr., Jordan Brooks, Quentin Bell, Kendall Fuller, Jordan Poyer, Jevon Holland, Jalen Ramsey, and Kader Kohu. The secondary, it doesn't scare me, but it does give me pause of that could be a problem.
Well,
if healthy and if everything's clicking right, the off the front line, not so much. There's a couple names. Calais Campbell definitely causes issues. Jordan Brooks also causes some issues. But that secondary, especially once you get into like the Poyer, Holland, Ramsey, I'm sitting there going, not necessarily lights out, 80 whatever Bears defense, but still gives me pause of like, if I'm a defensive coordinator for Arizona this upcoming week, I'm like, yeah, that could be an issue.
See, the way I see it, because I have watched this team many times against the Bills,
sure,
I don't think they did anything to upgrade that defense.
Yeah.
Jordan Poyer is a solid safety, but as we saw in Buffalo, Micah Hyde made up for a lot of Poyer's game.
True.
When he was by himself, he was not exactly, let me rephrase it. When he was not the lead safety, I don't think he performed as well.
Right.
And I don't know if Holland is an upgrade from Hyde, in my opinion. I really don't. Jalen Ramsey, I think, is very overrated at this stage in his career. I don't think that he is the same that we saw when he came out of college by any stretch of the imagination. And I think since he's been in Miami, he's been adequate, but I don't call him a lights-out corner.
I will say this. The Dolphins defense is an early leader for my favorite name in the NFL right now. They've got a guy listed on ESPN.com as their second-string right cornerback, Storm Duck. Best name so far. But still early.
But I think the big problem that you're going to have is that offense. And the one thing that Miami got away with last year is they had a hell of a 1-2 punch at running back.
Yeah.
Mostert and Achane played very well. Achane, though, was out for a good stretch of games.
Yeah, don't I know it? Fantasy.
So if he's not 100%, they need somebody to step up and take over for that.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if they're going to be able to repeat the magic there, because the one thing we have to remember with the NFL is coordinators watch tape every season, and they'll catch up about things they did this year. I think Miami flew under the radar as far as the offensive went.
Right.
Side of things, but I think that this is going to be the true test for Tua.
Yeah.
If he's really the real deal.
Yeah.
And I think for that wide receiver core, they're going to need to really step up and do some things. And I think Tyreek Hill has a lot of pressure on him to deliver. But do you really think that he is the best wide receiver in the NFL?
Right now, he's in the conversation.
Okay.
I'm not going to say he's the best. He's in that conversation. Now, the thing I will say, though, that Miami needs to prove from last year, because I'm looking at their schedule, and I'm not going to run through the whole thing, but they need to beat the teams that are on their level, if not better than them.
Agreed.
Because of their 6 losses, they lost to Buffalo twice in the playoffs.
Yep.
Meaning Buffalo was in the playoffs, not saying they lost in the playoffs twice. The Baltimore Ravens they lost to. They got hilariously embarrassed, let's remember. 56-19 loss on New Year's Eve. And then they lost to the Tennessee Titans and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Tennessee Titans did make the playoffs, is what it is. But Buffalo twice, Kansas City, Baltimore, all in the playoffs.
Exactly.
So you beat the teams you should. You didn't beat the teams you needed to. And you had one anomaly, whatever the fuck, 20-27, any given Sunday type scenario. That's the thing Miami needs to do to prove the doubters wrong this year, is like, hey, we can win. And sure, there's going to be any given Sunday and a couple of bloop losses.
Absolutely. I mean, it happens to every team, but I think for Miami, you hit the point right on the head. They need to show up, and they need to be a playoff team that beats playoff teams. Until they do that, it's an afterthought. I think they do make it into the playoffs, but I am not sitting here getting blown away by them, because, I mean, not every game can be week 3 against Denver where they drop 70. Let's not forget about that.
That's true.
So until they fix that, that'll be a big question mark.
True.
But I will say, speaking of question marks, I think the biggest one that we have circled on our calendar for this division is the New York Jets.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way to duck the Aaron Rodgers drama of last season.
Oh, boy.
And obviously, with him not being in the lineup, that team was shambles.
Zach Wilson turns out not the guy.
Right. So now Aaron Rodgers is slated to come back.
Hopefully.
And get going. I mean, obviously, at this stage in the game, being 40 years old, when does Father Time catch up with him?
Yeah. Well, and especially coming off an Achilles injury, which is notoriously rough to come back from.
Yeah.
No matter what position you play.
And especially at what age?
North of 40.
You're right, but I'm saying for when you have an Achilles injury like that.
Currently is 40 years old. He turns 41 in December.
Right, but my point is, it's not happening when he's in his 20s.
Correct.
It's now in his 40s.
As you and I can attest to, it takes the body a lot longer to heal the older you get.
Exactly. So that being said, I think the Jets are going to probably break even.
Okay.
I know a lot of people are anointing them as they're ready to take that jump, possibly take this division.
What are they smoking? Because that's ridiculous.
Well, that's the whole thing that with Aaron Rodgers, I think people are buying into the mystique that he's the Aaron Rodgers of old. But
are they dipping into his ayahuasca?
Well,
what is going on here?
Well, that's the question mark I have.
I'm sorry, but I'm looking at this depth chart on ESPN.com. Okay, Breece Hall's still there, but in my opinion, the jury is still out deliberating on this guy because a lot of people, I don't want to say everyone, but a lot of people have said, oh, he's the next great running back. He's the next great LaShawn McCoy. Insert, dynamic running back from the past 20 years or whatever it is. But once you get past that, okay, he's got Allen Lazard. Okay, Allen Lazard, even when he was in Green Bay, was never that good. Sorry, Packers fans. Garrett Wilson, he's okay.
Everybody's waiting for a breakout season with him.
Exactly. He's okay. They got Mike Williams there as well.
From Los Angeles, who, if he can stay healthy, is great, but
currently listed as questionable.
Exactly.
The other starting wide receiver they got listed is Xavier Gibson. So, okay. But then their tight ends, I've never heard of any of these guys. Tyler Conklin, Jeremy Rucker, Brendan Bates. And then they've got a guy on 4th string, Kenny Yoba, but he's on IR. So we've had one fantasy draft together. I know we're having another one later this week. You've probably had more than that. Have you taken any of these gentlemen that I've mentioned for your fantasy draft, even for like a late mid-season? Hey, I got my starter on bye this week. I need a filler. because I haven't.
No, the only one I take a flyer on is Mike Williams, but
Sure.
but it's a late round,
Sure.
like end of the draft. The problem that you have here with the Jets is I think everybody's really just trying to capture the magic of Aaron Rodgers, the mystique.
Yeah.
But we have to remember, this is not Peyton Manning of Indianapolis. This is Peyton Manning of Denver.
This isn't Michael Jordan of the Chicago Bulls. This is Michael Jordan of the Washington Wizards.
Exactly. When great players leave their franchise and where they made their legacy, when they go to other teams, there is a transition of success. And I think, unfortunately, at this stage, with Aaron Rodgers being at the age of 40, coming back from a very devastating injury, I don't necessarily pencil them in to run away with this division.
God, no.
I mean, sure, they have a great defense led by Sauce Gardner. Great defense. I will tell you, they will contend. They'll probably split with most of the teams in the AFC East for records this year. But do I think that they're in that elite talk with the Baltimores, the Kansas Cities? No. Unfortunately, I just don't see it here. And I think the biggest problem they have, too, is that offensive coordinator did not know how to use Breece Hall.
Yeah.
And I think that with Rodgers coming back, Rodgers is going to just basically be calling audibles as he sees it.
And the thing I've got an issue with the Jets is the window for Aaron Rodgers and success is very small. Of course, we knew this already, though, so I'm not exactly breaking news like Adam Schefter here. But you need to be getting ready, much like Tom Brady, and this has kind of bit the Patriots in the ass. They never got ready for the post-Tom Brady era, and now we're sitting here however many seasons of, just not making the playoffs or one-and-dones in the playoffs and whatever else. I'm looking at the Jets' depth chart. Their backup quarterback's Tyrod Taylor, which, hey, God forbid something happened to Aaron Rodgers again, and he's out another season, which at that point, just call it a career. Tyrod's there, and he can fill in for you, but there's nothing there for the post-Aaron Rodgers era. He's, like I said, he's 40 years old. He's turning 41, or he's 41, and he's turning 42, whatever it is, in December. The majority of his years are behind him. He has got a very short amount of time ahead of him. I don't see him going to Tom Brady and playing until he's 45 route.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be the big X factor involved with this team. I think they're going to break even at 500.
I can see it.
I mean, maybe they'll get lucky and can slide into an A spot in the playoffs, but I just think the wear and tear of the season with Aaron Rodgers, we don't know what we're going to get out of him.
I will say the Jets, just looking at the schedule, middle of the season is relatively easy. I would say, just because you get into like after October. They've got Houston week 9, Arizona week 10, Indianapolis week 11, bye week in week 12, then Seattle, Miami, Jacksonville, Rams. So there's some shot they could pull out a couple of wins there and surprise some people.
Yeah.
Looking at their first, we'll go back just real quick just to give them their due. Dolphins' first 4 games of the season. They open up this Sunday against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That is a home game. Then, as we alluded to, they're at home against the Buffalo Bills week 2. Week 3, they're on the road playing the Seattle Seahawks. And then week 4, they're at home playing the Tennessee Titans for those New York Football Jets. They open a Monday Night Football in San Francisco playing the San Francisco 49ers. So good luck, A-Rod. Week 2, they're on the road playing the Tennessee Titans. Week 3 is a Thursday night football game where they're playing the New England Patriots. If I'm not mistaken, and we'll know here in a minute, I believe that's the only primetime game the Patriots have this year. Then week 4 is at home against the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see about that. And speaking of the New England Patriots,
oh boy,
it's a rebuilding year. I mean, let's be honest about it. It is what it is.
Yep.
Pat, it's your team. I'll let you kind of take the mic here.
Well, obviously gone is Bill Belichick, in is Gerard Mayo. We actually have offensive coordinators now, that you can go to the Patriots website and go to the section for coaches and see who it is. It's not, we just got guys calling plays and trust us. Gone is Mac Jones for greener pastures. Maybe less. I'm not going to root against the guy, but I'm not going to root for him. Jacoby Brissett is in as the starting quarterback. They drafted Drake May out of the University of North Carolina. If they are smart, Drake May does not see a play this entire season because the Patriots' biggest hole is obviously the offensive line, because good God, it's got more holes than Swiss cheese. You're going to kill the kid, metaphorically speaking, if you let him play with that offensive line the way it is right now. I think they've got something potentially interesting with Joe Milton III. I believe was out of the University of Tennessee. I've seen some plays. I watched some plays on NFL Network when the Patriots games were on NFL Network. I'll say this: he's dynamic. I like what they might be able to do with him. But then once you get past that, Ramondre Stevenson is still there, which, hey, that's good, but then the rest of it, it's just, they're going to be without Kendrick Bourne, their number one wide receiver for the first month of the season. He's still recovering from an ACL injury. They got Hunter Henry. Cool, but it's going to be a rough season. Bottom of the division. Probably another top 5 draft pick this year. It's not going to be pretty this year.
Yeah, I'll just kind of keep it short and sweet about this because I don't want to just keep throwing gas on that fire. The Patriots are rebuilding, and I think that everybody has to realize that the Belichick era is over.
Yep.
Drake May might be the guy, might not be.
I saw some promise.
We don't know, but we're going to have to kind of let him play out. I just think we have to be very patient if you're fans of the Patriots because the thing is, as Pat alluded to, your offensive line is not good.
Yep.
And to throw a rookie quarterback in there, I think is a very big disservice. So hopefully they do not, but if they do, it's going to be a very long season of growing pains, and I think that they just kind of have to wait to see because the thing about Drake May is he fits that Trubisky, Darnold prototype physically. Yep. And I think to put him in there against 3 very good teams in the AFC East is a big disservice. You got to let him kind of ease into it. Mm-hmm. If they don't, it's going to be, like I say, a long season. I could see a top 5 draft pick coming back.
No, I do too. First month of the season, they open up the regular season on the road playing the Cincinnati Bengals. Week 2, they're at home against the Seattle Seahawks. Week 3, they're on the road playing the New York Jets on Thursday Night Football, as I alluded to. And then week 4 is on the road playing the San Francisco 49ers.
Well, it's going to be a big test for them out of the gate. But speaking of big tests, we have to go to probably the arguably toughest division in all of football.
Yeah, that would be the AFC North. And looking at the standings from this past season, you had the Baltimore Ravens win this division, finishing with a record of 13-4. Cleveland finished in second place with a record of 11-6. Pittsburgh Steelers finished in third with a record of 10-7. And then you had the Cincinnati Bengals finished in fourth place with a record of 9-8.
Well, speaking of those Bengals, I have them winning this division.
Oh,
okay. I think Joe Burrow healthy is going to do wonders for them because obviously last year, not so much.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase has a contract issue that I'm now hearing is kind of a non-factor. He is going to play game 1 and kind of go from there.
Well, the contract issue is weird just because, yes, he wants a new deal, but it's not in the same vein of some other players that we've heard about in deals getting done the last week or so. Mm-hmm. Because as Adam Schefter said on Pat McAfee show today, as we record, he's still got 2 years left on his deal. So a lot of these other guys, the Ayuks and the Trent Williamses and the CeeDee Lambs and the other there was half a dozen guys in the last week who all just got new contracts. Mm-hmm. They had 1 year left on their deal.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase has still got 2. So I get why he would want to get one done, but it's not exactly pressing.
It's not pressing, but that is the big question mark involving him because obviously when new contracts are going around, it does draw a little attention from everybody else in the league. And we talked about CeeDee Lamb getting a big contract in Dallas finally.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase is obviously eyeing that, and he makes a very compelling argument for it. But I think with this team as well, you have T. Higgins, who is franchised.
True.
That's tying up a lot of money as well. So until they really mess around and move some parts there, I don't exactly know how they're going to find all the money to do this. So I think for them, this is a win now.
Yeah.
And I think they're not going to have any choice but to do it. But the defense has played very solid throughout the seasons.
Yep.
They have made some moves at the running back position. Joe Mixon is no longer there. Zach Moss is taking over. I don't necessarily know if that's an upgrade. I think it's more of a lateral move at this stage.
Yeah, maybe.
I do like Chase Brown to overtake him in that position. He's currently number 2 on the depth chart.
Okay.
I could see that. But as long as they have Joe Burrow in that lineup, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
And he has enough weapons to go around with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, as we alluded to. Mike Gesicki is now the tight end over there. I think that's a big move for them. I think he's always done great work in Miami. Give him some, and especially for a safety blanket for Burrow, I think it's going to be fine. I do see them winning this, but much again like the Bills, it's not going to be by much with Baltimore right behind them.
I'm going to tell you right now, the Super Bowl participant from the AFC is not going to be coming out of this division because they're going to beat the absolute ever-loving tar out of each other. And I think if memory serves, I saw the NFL on Fox post on social media the day the schedules came out or a couple days after schedules came out, and I think out of the entire AFC, the AFC North have basically 4 of the hardest schedules in the entire NFL this year.
Oh, completely.
I'm not going to run through every team's schedule for every league because we'd be here till Christmas, but I'm going to run through all of the schedules for the AFC North. Just listen to these. So the Baltimore Ravens, they're playing Kansas City on the road. the Raiders, Dallas, and Buffalo the first month of the season.
Yeah, that's rough.
After that, they got Cincinnati, the Commanders, Tampa Bay, Cleveland, Denver, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, the Chargers, the Eagles, and then they've got a bye week in week 14. And then they close out the regular season playing the Giants, the Steelers, the Texans, and the Browns. Then you get to the Cleveland Browns, who the first month of the season play Dallas, Jacksonville, the Giants, and the Raiders. After that, they've got the Commanders, Eagles, Bengals, Ravens, Chargers, bye week in week 10. Then they do the second half of their season. Saints, Steelers, Broncos, Steelers, Chiefs, Bengals, Dolphins, Ravens.
Yeah.
Yikes. So then you get to the Pittsburgh Steelers, first month of the season. Falcons, Broncos, Chargers, Colts, their first month of the season. Then they've got Dallas, the Raiders, Jets, and Giants. Bye week in week 9. Listen to this one. After their bye week, they've got the Commanders, Ravens, Browns, Bengals, Browns, Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals.
Ouch.
Oh my God, Pittsburgh is going to take its lumps in the second half of the season. Then we got lastly, and certainly not leastly, the Cincinnati Bengals, who, as I alluded to, open up against the New England Patriots. Then they've got the Kansas City Chiefs, Washington, Carolina, Baltimore, Giants, Browns, Eagles, Raiders, Ravens, Chargers, bye week in week 12. Then they've got the Steelers, Cowboys, Titans, Browns, Broncos, and Steelers. Those schedules all around are ridiculous.
Oh, they're all brutal.
Oh my God. So that's why I say, if you're listening to this show and you haven't put your Vegas bet down or your DraftKings or whatever gambling app you use, which gamble responsibly, please, do not pick anyone out of the AFC North, because they're going to come out with their lumps and they might make a run. I don't think they're going to make a run to the Super Bowl, because they're just going to be so beaten, bloodied, and bruised. It's going to be ridiculous. As for who I think is going to win this division, I'm going to go with you. I think it's going to be Cincinnati. Obviously had a down year last year, but that's because Joe Burrow went down like the first month of the season, whatever it was. He's going to bounce back. He's still got Jamar Chase there, as you alluded to. Zach Moss and Chase Brown are there, who are also very good. T. Higgins, hit or miss. Most years, and I'm speaking from experience. I had him on fantasy a couple of years. You know, they got Mike Gesicki, who had again, much like Jonnu Smith with the Patriots a couple of years, had a fairly decent year in New England, and he had a shit offense he was playing behind. Give him an offense that's actually halfway decent, halfway competent, and watch him light it up. So I agree with you. I think it's going to end up being the Baltimore Ravens, or not the Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals, who win this division.
I think Cincinnati gets it by a game. I think Baltimore's right behind them. I mean, the only thing with Baltimore that they made some moves that really caught my attention. Derrick Henry is now officially there. I know it was rumored last season he was going to be joining via trade. Did not happen. Okay. But he's now in the lineups projected as their number one running back. Oh. Everybody else seems like they're back from last season, and I think Lamar Jackson, as long as he's there, they're going to contend.
Yep, long as he's healthy, too.
Yeah, so I think that they're going to be pretty much stat quo. I don't think Derrick Henry at this stage is going to be the key piece to get him over.
I mean, listen, they still got Mark Andrews, who's one of the best tight ends and most unsung tight ends in the NFL.
Agreed, completely. So I think they'll be just fine.
Although I will warn Ravens fans, I drafted him in one of my fantasy leagues, so if he goes down with injury, you can blame me.
Yes. And then I think coming up third is going to be Cleveland.
Okay.
I think Cleveland's defense is going to win them more games than the offense. And
They did last year.
Well, I think we're going to have a duplicate performance, because I think the big problem that they have is Nick Chubb is still out. Jerome Ford is slated to be the number one running back. Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy are your two wides, with Deshaun Watson, who is he going to reclaim some of the greatness he once had, or is he going to be mediocre? I mean, it really comes down to how he plays. They do have Jameis Winston behind him.
True.
So I think that Watson is going to be on a very short timetable, because I think it's a win now for Cleveland. Their defense is not getting any younger. They're playing at an elite level. I know a lot of teams have them projected as the number one defense in the league, which they make an argument for. They really do. But that offense, it doesn't really scare me as much, because I need to see something out of Deshaun Watson.
Yep.
Until I do, without Nick Chubb in this lineup, I think they're going to struggle to make 500. I'd like to be proven wrong, but I think that that's where I have them pegged.
Yeah.
And then following right behind them is the Pittsburgh Steelers, who
we don't know what the fuck we're going to get out of them.
That's a big circus at quarterback.
Uh-huh.
And it's very weird to say that involving the Steelers.
Yeah.
But this is the world we live in with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson in that lineup.
Hey, put some respect on Kyle Allen.
I don't think he's going to see the ball unless we have both injuries happen. Like, I don't.
The San Francisco 49ers would like a word. It's possible.
Yeah. But, I mean, anything's possible, especially with a team that, I mean, they struggle with quarterback play, so they went all out.
Yeah, no, they did.
Trying to fix it. But I don't necessarily know if it's enough to take this division just because Russell Wilson at this stage is not Russell Wilson.
Well, and also, I mean, you look at the pieces he's got around him. Najee Harris, still waiting on him to emerge. You know, he hasn't had a great couple of years. Decent, not stellar. George Pickens, again, everyone keeps telling me how great he's going to be. I'm waiting to see it. You know, Van Jefferson, who the hell knows what we're going to get out of that? Pat Freiermuth was great in college.
Yeah.
But what's he done for me lately?
Hasn't transferred over.
Exactly. So Russell Wilson was good and all, but is it the Russell Wilson from Seattle or is it the Russell Wilson from Denver? We don't friggin' know.
That's right.
And Justin Fields. Listen, Justin Fields was decent in Chicago, but we don't know what we're going to get with this offense. So there's just way too. I agree with you. I got the Cincinnati Bengals winning the division, Baltimore being second, Browns third, and then Pittsburgh. I would like to put Pittsburgh third just because Mike Tomlin's still there. He hasn't had a sub 500 season in his entire coaching career, but I think it might be another 500 season this year. Just because there's just way too many question marks with that team for me to say, yeah, they're going to make an improvement.
Yeah, I agree with you there too. I'd like to see him break 500. I think that's going to be the challenge for them, to be honest with you. I just don't think that you're going to get that great of consistent quarterback play. I mean, Fields can win you games because obviously this is a big upgrade from Chicago. Wilson in this position, I'm sorry, I think he checked out, my opinion.
Could be.
And I think that that's going to cause a lot of problems.
Hey, listen, he's getting paid more from a team he's not playing for than the team he is playing for.
Yeah. So that said, that is our breakdown of the AFC East and North. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPH pod. Give us your thoughts of if your team is involved with that. We're going to take a quick break, come back, and talk the South and the West of the AFC on this special NFL preview edition.
Do not adjust your dial, or well, your phone, your watch, or whatever the heck you're using to listen to the awesome podcast you're currently listening to. I am the Duke of Nerds, Tyler Mack. And I am here to tell you that being a nerd can be a bit overwhelming, especially after 30. Life moves pretty fast in our nerd culture, and if you don't take the time to notice things, you miss out. That's why I'm here. As your Duke of Nerds, I am charged with educating, enlightening, and entertaining you on all things nerdy. I do it by running the 30 to Nerdy podcast. 30 to Nerdy is a Badcast Company production and currently playing wherever you cast your pod. Follow along each episode using the hashtag 30andNerdyPod. And check out what all is going on at 30andNerdyPodcast.com. Whether it's DC, Marvel, comics, or video games, I have got you covered. So tune in now. Cheers to you, nerds.
Coming back for another segment on this special edition of the ODPH podcast, breaking down the NFL season preview like we only can. Last segment, we talked the AFC East and the North. Now it's time to go to the South. And, well, this one, I think there's a little more story than we had last year going on.
I would like to think so, because, Lord, it can't get any worse.
No, it can't.
So we're looking at the AFC South, the dirty. Last season, you had the Houston Texans emerge victorious, winning the division with a record of 10-7. Jacksonville Jaguars finished in second place with a record of 9-8. The Indianapolis Colts finished in third with a record of 9-8, and the Tennessee Titans finished in last with a record of 6-11.
So this season, I know the perennial pick has got to be Houston.
Mm-hmm.
But I am going against the grain because my sleeper team of this coming season is the most boring team in football, the Indianapolis Colts.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Because I think there's a couple factors at play here that unfortunately did not go down last season.
Right.
Anthony Richardson should be healthy.
Right.
And he was showing flashes of brilliance last season before he went down.
Yes, he was.
Jonathan Taylor has needed a steady quarterback to kind of take some pressure off of him. I think they're finally going to do it. So if both of those gentlemen are on the field at the same time, I think we're actually going to see some dynamic offense from the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that defense is a bend but don't break. But I will say this. I like the Colts to take this division outright.
Okay. I agree with you. I think Indianapolis should do better, with a full season from Anthony Richardson. And Lord forbid something happens. They do have Super Bowl MVP Joe Flacco behind them should something go wrong. And God forbid something happens to Super Joe Flacco. Sam Ehlinger is the third string quarterback. But I don't think it's going to be enough. I think Houston is going to repeat their division win just because C.J. Stroud still there, Joe Mixon still there, Nico Collins is still there, Tank Dell, who had the injury late last year and unfortunately didn't play the full season. Tank Dell's coming back, should be full, ready to go. No issues there. You still got Dalton Schultz, who's still there. The Robert Woods, who had a great season last year for them. They've also got Stephon Diggs, which, listen, I know your opinion of Stephon Diggs, and that opinion is warranted, but let's not forget, Stephon Diggs, his first year in Buffalo was a great year for them in Buffalo.
Oh, sure.
Statistically, results-wise, not what you wanted. But still, it's the first season. It's the honeymoon phase. Things are going to be great in Houston. He's going to be balling out. He's not going to be complaining. He's not going to be doing anything. So I think it's got potential, with the addition of Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell coming back. You got enough around there. You got a young quarterback. They really overachieved last year, because I think the three of us, I can even dig up from what we had last year. I don't think any of us had them winning anything all of last year. So we will see, but I do think the Houston Texans are going to repeat as division champs.
See, I think they will contend, but I think the element that caught everybody off guard was the play of C.J. Stroud.
True.
Stroud coming into the second season is going to have a lot more game tape on him. And I think the teams are going to game plan for him better than they did last season.
Usually.
And I think, though, with Stephon Diggs there, sure, that gives him a legit number one, because I don't think Nico Collins is there yet. Tank Dell, obviously.
He had flashes of brilliance.
Yeah. Tank Dell could be a number two from the three. Schultz is not a bad tight end either, so they do have weapons on offense, especially at the running back position. I think they did upgrade with Joe Mixon now in the lineup, but I think this is where that, sophomore slump hits for C.J. Stroud. I think he's going to play well, but I don't think he's going to be playing as well as last season just because I think teams are going to figure him out a little bit.
Could be.
And I think that's going to slow them down just enough that they're behind the Colts, but I do like them for second in the South.
Okay.
I really do.
Okay. I have to say, for me, for the rest of the division, so I've got the Texans finishing first. I got the Colts finishing second. It's going to be close, though.
Yeah.
Then I've got the Jacksonville Jaguars finishing third, just because, listen, Trevor Lawrence is good, but hey, you got the greatest quarterback, who I don't know what they did up in his previous spot, but he was really throwing the ball around, in preseason. Never mind the fact he was fucking thrown against second and third string guys.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, even if you put me in a football field with Pee-wee guys, I'm going to look like Tom fucking Brady. But you look at the rest of that, Etienne Jr. is there, who, he had an okay year last year, had him on fantasy, didn't light it up as much as I thought he would. Still got the greatest wide receiver in NFL history, Christian Kirk, is still there. What was his contract again? Oh, that's right, 4 years, $72 million.
No, 96.
No, yeah, you're right, $96 million. So you still got Christian Kirk down there. Gabe Davis is there, Brian Thomas Jr., Evan Ingram. So they've got some pieces. It's not bad, but we're in year 3, 4 of the Trevor Lawrence experiment or the Trevor Lawrence experience. If I'm filling out the survey question at the end of a convention, Comic-Con, I'm not pleased with my results. So I don't necessarily look at this and go, they've done enough to upgrade, but it's kind of like a lateral move. Okay, they're still the same.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that they did enough to really bolster their roster a bit. I mean, Etienne, everybody's saying is going to have that breakout year, like they said the year prior. It hasn't happened yet. They just don't have that strong of a line for him to really take off and go with.
No, they don't. I mean, I'm looking at his stats. So his rookie season, 2022, 1,125 yards and 5 touchdowns. He averaged 5.1 yards a carry. 2023 sophomore year, a little bit of a sophomore slump there, just over 1,000 yards, 1,008 to be specific. 11 touchdowns, averaged 3.8 yards a carry. Looking though, he did go up in receiving though. They did hit him with in the air though. 35 catches, 316 yards his freshman year. Sophomore year, 58 catches for 476 yards and 1 touchdown. So,
Yeah, that's what I say. It's not really, lighting up the stat sheet, so to speak.
It's not James White levels of good.
No. So I think, though, if you're a Jacksonville fan, you just have to temper your expectations a bit.
Optimistic, but like don't go in expecting we're going to make it to the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I think they would need a lot of luck for that to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, Kirk, Davis, and Thomas are not the worst wide receiver core ever,
Decent.
but they're very much the same player. Maybe Thompson's got a little more, speed to him, but I don't really see them going anywhere outside of maybe the first round of the playoffs at best. I think the only move that jumped out to me was Mitch Morse left Buffalo because of a cap hit. He's now the center in Jacksonville, so he'll help them there.
Right.
But I don't think he's a game changer enough at this stage to take over. So I think Jacksonville will be fighting to contend for 500.
Yeah, it could be.
And then for Tennessee, how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm looking at this team. I think the only addition they made was Tyler Boyd, who was in not Cleveland, Cincinnati the last couple of years. But Will Levis is still there. Will Levis is okay. He's not the guy. The Tony Pollard is there as the running back, which Tony Pollard's okay. But as we've seen the last couple of years in the NFL, running backs are not what they used to be in terms of the NFL offense. Calvin Ridley's still there. DeAndre Hopkins is still there. So, like, there's pieces there for you might have something, but when your play caller is Will Levis, it's not exactly leading to a lot of optimism.
No, I mean, I think their big addition was Tony Pollard, rather, and Pollard played in Dallas, and Dallas had a way better offensive line.
Yeah, they did.
So I think now with Tennessee, like I say, they're going to be rebuilding for a couple seasons, I feel, and I'm not trying to take a shot against the team. I don't mind the team. But I think, though, in this situation, we really don't know where we're getting on Will Levis at this stage. Calvin Ridley, who had a resurgence last year after coming off suspension, looked really good. Can he carry that momentum with him forward? Obviously, with Tyler Boyd there from Cincinnati, that is an upgrade at that position. Yep. DeAndre Hopkins is not the DeAndre Hopkins of old. Sorry to break it down to you.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily know what we're going to get out of this team. We could have a sleeper team that maybe sneaks into the playoffs if Levis gets hot and can run with this team, sure. But if you're asking me right now, which you are, I just don't see them getting outside of fourth.
All of these teams, I'm looking at their schedules, have got rough patches somewhere in their season. So the Houston Texans, first month of the season, they open up on the road playing the Indianapolis Colts, and then they're home against the Chicago Bears. Week 3, they're on the road playing the Minnesota Vikings, and then week 4, they're at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I would say their rough part comes at the end of the season because they've got a bye week in week 14, and then their last month of the season, Miami, Kansas City, Baltimore, and Tennessee.
Yeah, that's a rough stretch.
Yikes.
That's a real rough stretch.
So then you got the Jacksonville Jaguars, who the first month of their season open up on the road playing the Miami Dolphins. Then they've got a home game against the Cleveland Browns. On the road playing the Buffalo Bills in week 3, and then week 4 on the road playing the Houston Texans. I would say for these guys, real rough patch comes in the middle of their season because they got a week 6 game against the Chicago Bears, which, hey, you never know what you're going to get there. And you got the New England Patriots, but here comes the rough part. Green Bay Packers in week 8, Philadelphia Eagles in week 9, Minnesota Vikings in week 10, and the Detroit Lions in week 11.
Yeah,
and if that ain't enough of a 1-2-3 punch, you got a bye week in week 12, and you come out playing the Houston Texans. Yikes. For the Indianapolis Colts, they open up against the Houston Texans. Week 2, they're on the road playing the Green Bay Packers. Week 3, they're playing the Chicago Bears. And then week 4, they're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, their rough spot, I would say, kind of that middle of the season there because week 7, they're playing the Miami Dolphins. Week 8, they're playing the Houston Texans. Then they've got the Minnesota Vikings and the Buffalo Bills. It might have a little bit of a reprieve week 11 with the New York Jets, but then you can't breathe because week 12, you got the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
Yikes. And then you've got the Tennessee Titans, who first month of their season, on the road playing the Chicago Bears, at home playing the New York Jets, at home playing the Green Bay Packers, and then on the road playing the Miami Dolphins. Listen, I feel sorry for Tennessee Titans fans because your bye week is week 5.
Yeah.
Hey, yikes.
They just keep sinking in deep water.
Yeah, but then their entire schedule is rough because you get out of that bye week. They've got Buffalo in week 7, Detroit in week 8, Chargers in week 10, Vikings week 11, Houston week 12, Jacksonville 14, Cincinnati 15. And then you've got your last 3 weeks of the season are division games with the Colts, Jaguars, and Texans. Yikes.
So definitely have to keep an eye on that. Obviously, that division more or less up for the grabs. But like I say, I like Colts, Houston, Jacksonville, Tennessee. But we'll have to see. Like I say, Tennessee could be a big X factor for everybody. They could swing.
Could be.
They're not exactly the certain favorite, which I think a lot of people have pegged for the Kansas City Chiefs as we now take a look at the AFC West.
Yeah, yep.
Pat, break it down because I got a lot to say about the Chiefs.
So the AFC West was obviously won by the Kansas City Chiefs, finished with a record of 11-6. The Las Vegas Raiders finished in second place with a record of 8-9. Denver Broncos were third with a record of 8-9, and the Los Angeles Chargers finished in last with a record of 5-12.
So the Chiefs are the Chiefs. They have obviously built a heck of a team down there. Albeit, though, I think they have a lot more luck than skill in certain aspects. Patrick Mahomes is an elite quarterback. We can't take anything away from him. Travis Kelce is on the back end of his career, but he's still putting up high numbers. Everything else, though, is in a little bit of flux, in my opinion.
I would agree.
I think the wide receiver position is obviously going to be one to watch. Last season was not great.
They got lucky last season.
Yeah, Kadarius Toney is no longer there.
Nope.
Rashid Rice, we don't know his situation right now due to stuff outside of the game.
Yeah.
So we're just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
Hollywood Brown is there, but he's already hurt.
He's, as we currently record, listed as out.
Mm-hmm. And Xavier Worthy was their number one draft pick, which was given to him by the Buffalo Bills. And to this day, I still don't understand why the Bills made this move.
They also, we got to mention, re-added Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah. Well, they needed to for depth because obviously they're getting rocked at this position.
Yeah, they are.
To put it mildly, but Worthy can run a very, very fast time. He fills in that Tyreek Hill position.
Yeah.
That he left Kansas City, that was a very, very big position to fill.
Yeah.
So when you can kind of sum that up, you just gave them a weapon that they did not need.
For those who don't remember, Xavier Worthy ran a 4.21 40-yard dash.
Yeah. So the fact that you've now given that to Patrick Mahomes, that is a little bit scary. Albeit, though, his hands are not the best.
True. But when you're running streak routes, and by that I mean just run straight and get past the defender, which when you run a 4.2 40, that's not hard. Hey, defensive coordinators, I'm going to give you a hint. You wanna beat Xavier Worthy? Just keep a guy deep.
Mm-hmm. I think this is a situation that they're going to have a lot of challenges on this offense because even though Mahomes is great, Kelsey's great but declining because he's just getting up there, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen with him. This team is going to struggle a little bit, I think, to find their groove.
I think so.
And I think that they're obviously going to have more competition in the AFC West than they had before.
I would agree.
And I think they do win this division, albeit, though, this is not going to be a runaway hit. I'll even go on a record and say I think this is the last great run for the Chiefs.
Could be.
I think Kelsey possibly is gone after this season.
Oh, okay.
As much as he wants to say no, but I think, and I don't want to dwell too much on his high-profile romance.
Right.
I think it's a sense of he's accomplished so much, and I think this goes for the rest of the team.
Yeah.
We have to give the Devils their due. They've accomplished a lot.
Yeah.
But how much winning is enough?
Right, and especially with Kelsey, he's accomplishing a lot off of the field, and I'm not referring to his relationship.
Exactly.
I'm referring to the fact that the podcast he does with his brother in the Heights, or whatever.
Or New Heights.
New Heights, that's what it is. Within the last 2 weeks or so, signed a $100 million contract with Amazon and Wondery Podcasts.
Yeah.
They're not doing so bad off field with their ventures.
No, he's looking into breaking out.
Isn't he also going to be in what is it? The some new Adam Sandler movie?
Yeah, he was rumored to be in Happy Gilmore.
That's
too.
what it is. Yeah,
it was rumored.
It was rumored.
We don't know if that's officially confirmed or not. He's also got a new television show. I believe he's going to be the host for one of those how to be.
It's some reality game.
Yeah,
show.
thank you. It's like I say, it's like how to be smarter than.
One
of those shows. So the moral of the story there is he's got his eye.
Are you smarter than a celebrity?
Thank you. He's got his eyes elsewhere.
Yep.
And
Which isn't a bad thing.
No, I'm not saying it's a distraction by any means because the one thing I will say is when it's game day, he shows up.
Oh yeah.
So teams have not been able to figure out a game plan for him as of yet. That will change, especially with one team we're going to discuss because I have a lot of thoughts on them, and I know I'm going to make one of our friends very, very happy when I say this. But I will say I think this is the last great run for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I really think after this season, Kelsey is gone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Andy Reid is going to stick around. I mean, I think as of right now, everybody's saying the right things, but if they make a deep run again, I think this offseason could be very interesting forthcoming.
Yeah, I think it's the Chiefs are going to get this division again, but it's not going to be as lopsided as it was this past season. I mean, they had the division locked up by very early in the season. Not even hilarious. But no, I agree with you. Like, Mahomes is still there. He's in that Tom Brady conversation of you remember some of those years after Randy Moss left, and you look at the wide receivers he had and you look at the success they had and you went, how the hell did he make anything happen with the core he had? I mean, I'm looking at this again, no disrespect to the wide receivers, as we alluded to. Rashee Rice is still on the roster, but as we alluded to, with all the off-field stuff, we don't know what his status is. They've also got Justin Watson, Mecole Hardman, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jaron Hayek, but he's on IR, Xavier Worthy, Sky Moore, Travis Kelce, and then they've also got Noah Gray, Jared Wiley, and Peyton Hendershot as some of their other offensive targets. Okay, Hollywood Brown, if healthy, that's not a bad target. That's not a bad receiver to have. Juju Smith-Schuster, who the hell knows what we're going to get out of him? Speaking from experience, don't expect much. You know, Xavier Worthy, rookie, don't know. But he's got one of the greatest quarterbacks of recent history. I don't want to go all time yet because I just don't feel comfortable saying of all time.
No, we could say recent history. That's fair.
He's one of the best quarterbacks of recent history. You know what? I'll say this century. You know, he's one of the best. So that helps a lot. But again, they kind of ran into some of these issues last season where, okay, you got Travis Kelce. Who the hell else is going to step up for you? You got the pieces there. We'll see if they're able to do it. I think they'll be able to do it, but I don't think it's going to be as much of a runaway as it was last season.
No, I agree with you completely. I think they're going to have some very stiff competition. And I think one team that's getting slept on a little bit is the Las Vegas Raiders.
Agreed.
Because I think that they now have solidified their head coach position. Antonio Pierce understands the Raider mentality. And I think that now that you have somebody that gets that piece of the equation, that's huge. And we saw how hard they played for him last year.
Oh, dude, it was like turning a switch on.
We haven't seen that since Gruden.
True.
Let's be honest about this.
True.
And I know that the media was making a lot of hype concerning they didn't draft a franchise quarterback. Obviously, Josh Jacobs decided to opt out. I think this team is going to be fine.
Yeah, they'll do decently.
I think what they have in Gardner Minshew is he is going to be the gateway for the next guy.
He's the placeholder.
And I think this season, in this draft, I don't think there was any real big sizzle names, so to speak, like after the top two went.
No.
And I think for the Raiders to try trading up, I think that would have done more damage than good.
Yeah.
Minshew will be fine for what they need to do here. I mean, Zamir White is going to take over at the number one position. Madison is right behind him. He was solid in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So that's not a bad 1-2 punch.
Wasn't exactly Dalvin Cook levels good, but, he was serviceable.
Right. Devontae Adams is still there, and as long as Devontae Adams is there, they'll be fine there. Jacoby Myers, who you know very well.
Yeah, decent dual threat offensive weapon in that he can throw and catch.
Plus, we also have Brock Bowers in tow as well.
Brock Bowers.
Right.
Need to get an intro from Paul Heyman.
And obviously taking him number 13 overall, that is a big step in the right direction for them. They also made some offensive line moves in the draft as well. So they addressed a lot of needs, but the one thing that people forget about from last season is when Pierce was at the helm, they took it to the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And it was not exactly an easy day at the office, so to speak.
No.
And I think as long as the Raiders capture that mentality, and you have to let Pierce work, even though he's got a great coaching staff around him, they'll get there. Like, do I think they're the worst team in the league? Absolutely not.
Right.
Because I know that a lot of the media likes yapping about the quarterback deal.
Yep.
Minshew is a solid 2. Is he the guy? No. But if they have their eye on somebody, which I think they do now that they have enough of their roster taken care of, I think they'll be just fine.
And I think the thing that'll work in the Raiders' favor, you bring up the Chiefs, is, of course, division rivals. They'll play them twice a year. What's the one thing you see a lot of times, especially when it comes to division opponents, happens? Depending on who they're playing around them, they might sleep on them, they might be looking past them, whatever else. Raiders, I don't think that's going to be the case because the first time they play the Kansas City Chiefs is week 8, Sunday, October 27th. That's at home against the Kansas City Chiefs. Week prior, on the road playing the Rams. Week after, on the road playing the Bengals.
Yeah.
So that there's no we can take a lull. Oh, we know we got a guaranteed win this week. Those are 3 games back to back to back. Like, you got to be on your A game. You got to bring your stuff. Week after that, or the meeting after that, maybe might be some looking past. Not it might be something hiccups going on because they play them again this time in Kansas City on week 13, Friday, November 29th. Week prior, they're at home against the Denver Broncos. Then they got the Kansas City Chiefs. Week after, they're on the road playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, so I think they'll have the big game circled on the calendar.
Oh, yeah.
They're not going to let anybody down with that. In fact, I think they'll really outshine the Chiefs in one of those games at least.
At least, I'm thinking at least one of them.
At least one. But I think with Max Crosby there solidifying that defense, they'll be just fine. They're going to have a new attitude. They're going to be very tough to play. I'm not looking forward to anybody facing the Raiders.
Yep.
And I think that's what you need for this division because I think they're the team that's most poised to take over for the Chiefs' reign. I think they do need to get better at quarterback, but I think for what they have right now, they just need to scrap. They're not going to win games by 14. They're going to win close ones. They're going to be almost like the cardiac kids, so to speak. You're going to see a lot of fourth quarter wins and losses with this team.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be what Pierce wants because I think Pierce wants this team to really get put through the pressure. And if they can get through that and come out as diamonds, I think that he's got something building right there that we saw last year. They did with what they did with less, and now they've upgraded some positions. I think they're on the right track.
Agreed.
And then you take a look at another team that is in that transition phase, and one that I think is long overdue. And if it doesn't work this time, I think I don't know what they do.
Get rid of everything except the studs, and I mean the studs in the building.
Because we were talking about the team formerly known as the San Diego Chargers. They are the Los Angeles Chargers on paper. And with Jim Harbaugh now as the head coach, leaving Michigan and the dynasty he built there, expectations are through the roof.
Yep.
And there has been a lot of moving and shaking going on with this roster. Most notably, Austin Eckler, gone, to put it mildly. Gus Edwards is now in that position.
Yep.
And J.K. Dobbins is right behind him, so the running back position is going to have a different look this year. Josh Palmer has taken over the number one wide receiver position. Ladd McConkey is the number two. Will Diesel is playing the tight end position with Hayden Hurst right behind him.
Yep.
And Justin Herbert is there, but this is, like we touched upon, a brand new offense for this team. Now, that being said, Pad, what's your take on the Chargers?
I think they're not going to do leaps and bounds better, but I think they will improve, obviously, from their finish last year, which was 5-12. I've actually got them finishing third for this division. I think they're going to do better than the Denver Broncos. We'll get to the Broncos in just a minute, but I think you look at Harbaugh and what he was able to accomplish at Michigan, especially this last year, which I've said on the show before, like the Michigan offense wasn't anything that sexy or that special last season, especially watching the entire Penn State game against Michigan. I'm like, this is nothing special. It's good, but it's nothing like life-changing. I think he'll be able to bring some of that magic to the Chargers. It's been rumored and it's been talked about for a while. If he ever wanted to go back to the NFL, he'd really want to work with Justin Herbert because he loves Justin Herbert and his play style. So I think it's a good start. He'll be able to make some moves and get some stuff done. But is it enough to turn around and go, you know what? They're going to steal the division from the Kansas City Chiefs and the Las Vegas Raiders. Not yet, but they're on the right path, and I think they're making some good steps.
I hope people like boring football.
Yeah, that's true.
Because he runs a very conservative offense.
Oh, to say the least.
I think for anybody that forgets about his time in San Francisco, he runs the ball a lot.
Yeah, he does.
So
a lot of screen passes.
Yeah, so I would not be looking for Justin Herbert to put up a video game number game.
Yeah, you want a early preview, go watch the highlights from the Penn State Michigan game last year. I realized he wasn't coaching because there was the whole suspension, but it was still his goddamn offense.
Yeah, he likes to run a lot.
Bring a pillow, you might fall asleep.
So that said, I think this team is going to struggle to hit 500.
Yeah.
I think they will be better than the Denver Broncos without question.
Oh my God.
I think this team is going to finally start looking like the team Harbaugh wants it after week 9. I think they're going to go through a lot of growing pains. I really do. It's just a matter of Harbaugh is trying to implement his coaching system into a team that is used to be a high-scoring offense. The defense is a bend that doesn't break, and I think he wants to change that culture very badly, and I'm not saying that's a bad call to do. I think it's just going to take time. But I think that looking at the moves they did, and especially dumping all the offensive weapons that Herbert is accustomed to, I think is going to be a tough adjustment period for him. I really do.
Yeah.
And then we have Denver.
Hey, this team's a mess.
Let's ride.
Their starter is Bo Nix, who, of course, is the rookie out of Oregon. God forbid that doesn't have it. Jarrett Stidham's their backup, which, in case you don't remember who he is, Patriots drafted him when Tom Brady was still there. You can look up the highlight. His first career NFL pass is a pick six. I remember watching vividly. It was enough that they put Tom Brady back in the game. And then you've got Zach Wilson, who is just going to be a journeyman quarterback. And anybody who is still holding out hope he's going to be the guy, stop.
Yeah.
I mean, running back game is nothing special. Javonte Williams is just supposed to be their starter, but if that doesn't work, you've got Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime, Blake Watson, who, Cortland Sutton. I feel bad for Cortland Sutton because this is going to be a rough year for him. It's either going to be a rough year or a great year for him because he's going to be probably getting all the targets.
Yeah, he's going to be the only target.
Troy Franklin is also there. Josh Reynolds is one of their other starting wide receivers, but he's currently listed as questionable, so we'll see what happens. Devon Veal, another one there. You got Marvin Mims Jr., who might share some catches and some playtime with Cortland Sutton. We'll see, But then for the tight ends, they've got Adam Troutman, Greg Dulich, Lucas Krull, and Nate Adkins. If you've ever heard of any of these people, boy, you watch a lot more college football than I do. This team's going to be bad. I understand getting rid of Russell Wilson because clearly it wasn't working, but it's going to be a rough couple of years for Broncos fans because Bo Nix might, and I say might be, the start of something good. But then again, I want to caution you. I thought Mac Jones would be the start of something good. And well, he's now riding shotgun in Jacksonville behind. Now the only man left from that draft class left with his original drafting team. Then that'd be Trevor Lawrence.
This is going to be a weird statement, but I'm going to make it anyway.
Yeah.
Sean Payton's return to football reminds me of when Joe Gibbs returned to Washington.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
You have a great coach who comes back after some time off.
A lot of history, a lot of success.
Yeah, and just can't recapture the magic. And I think, unfortunately, that's what's happening here in Denver.
Yeah.
I think that Peyton, I'm not saying the game has passed him by, but
it's just different.
It's just different.
It also helps when you have a Hall of Famer like Drew Brees.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that tremendously helps. Like, what they built down in New Orleans is legendary. Like, that put that franchise back on the map. Him coming to Denver and trying to fix this, and it's just not happened
at all
for reasons, literally. I think this is going to be a very short window for Peyton. I think he's gone after this season.
I think I'm not even giving him the full season. He'll be gone by mid-season.
Yeah, I think this team, I'm really not seeing anything that scares me on either side of the ball. I mean, Bo Nix, great story, but
yeah, decent at Oregon, but then again, it was the Pac-12 in its end stage.
Plus, Oregon quarterbacks have not really turned over to great pros.
True.
I mean, I say this about Alabama all the time, and I just think
you're not wrong.
When you're somebody that's used to that system of high scoring, it just doesn't translate to the pros. I think. I mean, Nix could be a surprise here. I know he's looked good in preseason, but it's preseason.
You're playing second string and third stringers.
Yeah, so I think for him, it depends, but I think. Looking at the rest of the division, I just don't see how they get out of fourth.
Yeah, no, I don't either. So looking at the schedules the first month of the season, Kansas City Chiefs, as everybody I think knows, opening the season this upcoming Thursday at home against the Baltimore Ravens. Week 2, they're at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. Week 3, they're on the road playing the Atlanta Falcons. That'll be on Sunday Night Football. Then week 4, they are on the road playing the Los Angeles Chargers. For the Las Vegas Raiders, they open the season on the road playing the Los Angeles Chargers. Week 2, they're on the road playing the Baltimore Ravens. Week 3 is at home against the Carolina Panthers. Week 4, at home against the Cleveland Browns. Denver Broncos open up on the road playing the Seattle Seahawks. Week 2, they're at home playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. On the road playing Tampa Bay in week 3. And then week 4, they're on the road playing the New York Football Jets. And lastly, certainly not leastly, for those Los Angeles Chargers, because as Arnold Schwarzenegger once said, go Chargers, go. Open up the regular season at home against the Las Vegas Raiders. Week 2 is on the road in Carolina. Week 3 is on the road in Pittsburgh. And then week 4 is at home playing the Kansas City Chiefs. And then God help you Chargers fans because you got a bye week in week 5.
Yeah.
Yikes.
It's going to be a rough one for the AFC West, but there's going to be a lot of storylines heading out of this as we kick off the season this week. That said, hit us up on the hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts about the AFC South and the AFC West? We're going to take a quick break and come back and give you our predictions about who is going to the Super Bowl from the AFC on this very special edition of the ODPH podcast.
This is Tom from Tom Joe Lou,
This is Matt from Sidemen Sounds.
and you're listening to ODPH Podcast.
Wanna go where no one knows my name, to the desert, the oceans,
Coming back for the final segment on this special edition of the ODPH podcast, kicking off our coverage of the NFL season. We've broken down the entire AFC divisions, but now it's time to say who's going to the playoffs and who's going to the big dance. So, Pat, who you got?
So for mine, in case you don't remember, we got the 4 division winners plus 3 wildcard teams. I've got for my division winners the Miami Dolphins, Cincinnati Bengals, Houston Texans, and then the Kansas City Chiefs. And then my wildcard teams in no particular order, the Buffalo Bills, Baltimore Ravens, and the Las Vegas Raiders.
All right. Well, for my picks coming out of the West, I'm taking the Kansas City Chiefs.
Right.
In the North, it's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals.
Right.
The biggest surprise of everybody, I'm going to be taking the Colts coming out of the AFC South and the Buffalo Bills coming out of the East. My wild card teams, as much as it hurts me to say, I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins. I do like Baltimore in this as well. And then I'm taking Houston to round out my 7.
All right.
So, Pat, that being said, who you got going to the big dance?
I'm going to say it's not the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs, listen, it's just not there. There's a reason in pro sports we haven't had a team three-peat since I believe it was the Los Angeles Lakers in the early 2000s. That doesn't happen that often. Even the Patriots didn't three-peat. So I don't think it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm instead going to say it's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay. Listen, solid pick. For me, this was very tough to do. I know this might be a shock to everybody, but I do not take the Bills because I don't like jinxing my team. And if you listen to this show every year, whoever I picked for the Super Bowl, I have the Coach Duffy curse, and then something bad happens to that team.
That is true.
So that being said, I think your AFC Championship game is going to be Cincinnati versus Kansas City. And I think the Chiefs are going to make one last run to the Super Bowl. So,
God, I hope not.
Well, like I say, my karma has weird effects. But I truly think this is the last ride for Andy Reid and company. And I think that if they're going to make a run, they're going to do it. I think the rest of the league has stepped up. I wouldn't doubt the Colts making a deep run in the playoffs, to be honest with you. I really think Richardson and Taylor, as long as they stay healthy, are going to just completely change the culture of that team. Buffalo, there's too many question marks, but I think they could make a run as well, depending on who gets knocked out where. And if the Chiefs take the eyes off the prize or injuries happen, which, I mean, they've been very fortunate the past couple seasons, if this happens to them, I think that could definitely shift off the dynamic of everybody. But I think it's going to be, unfortunately, for me, because it does pain me to say it, it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs.
God, I hope not.
Well, like I say, we'll have
I got
to see.
nothing against them, but it's like watching the rerun of the same show.
No, I agree with you, Pat. So that said, we have one more episode to do, so we're going to get out of here, get rested up, and then talk the NFC on the next edition of the ODPH. But as we like to end every time, for anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. That's it for this edition. So for the one and only Padawan J.
Fuck the Astros.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast. We'll see you next episode.
It's such waste of time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know. 'Cause anyone who's worth a damn be worth way more than a picture could ever show. You could find the right light, find the right angle, and never find your soul. And it can feel like a losing battle, and this plot is full of holes. This modern way of finding love just makes me feel so alone. And I can't be the only one sick of staring at my phone. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Don't know that I believe in the old time fable. Everyone has just one true love. All I know is you're across this table, and you're all I'm thinking of. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Ooh, ooh, ooh. swiping left and swiping right on people you could know.